I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 33, Episode 16 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
And I'm Angie.
In today's episode, we talk about how do you balance PC Spotlight as a GM. We're going to specifically call out our good and bad habits, like specific to Angie and I. So,
I have some very specific bad habits.
Same, big same. Emails. JD Grizz from the Discord asks when it's okay for your PC to be the center of attention. Mm-hmm. And Connor from Ireland asks how to deal with the character who needs to be talked into everything.
I know a Connor from Ireland.
Yeah.
You think it's the same one?
I don't know.
Probably not.
I mean, there's probably a lot of Connors.
There might be more than one Connor
in Ireland for sure, but I guess if it's someone, if this is Connor from Ireland who lives in LA, the pool is smaller.
Yes.
Drastically.
That's true. But this Connor lives in Ireland and is part of my screenwriting crowd.
Oh.
So.
I don't know.
Could be.
It could be.
Yeah.
Connor from Ireland, now you have to write an email saying if you're Ingie's friend. Or just tell Ingie and he'll tell us next time.
Yeah.
All right. If you'd like to contribute a question or topic to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Or you can drop a message in the mailbag channel in our Discord at happyjacks.org/Discord. We were very flush with topics and emails for quite some time. We're starting to kind of make our way through them. So if you have something, write an email or post in the Discord, friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not stressed yet, but just
give us your cues.
Yeah, for a while, I didn't see the end coming, and now I'm starting to see the end. So send in more stuff.
Yeah, clean inbox is a terrifying thing.
I don't know what that's like. I literally have zero reference for that.
I have emails that have to be 10 years old.
So I'm looking at you right now, and Jason gives me shit about this all the time. 40,000.
40,000.
40,210.
I think I have like 600. But
Yeah.
every now and then I do clean it out on like a really awesome hyper-focus day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I also have that's a combination of 7 different email addresses.
Okay.
So it's not just one email address. It's also a whole bunch of Happy Jacks unreads that go back as long as that email address has existed.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going back and cleaning up Stu's mess.
I also use mine for notes.
Oh yeah.
So things for scripts that I'm working on or games that I'm working on, I'll put in the headline.
Oh yeah.
Because if I put it into a notes app, I'll just close that app and never look at it again. And if it comes to me in an email the next day, I'll be like, wait, what's this? Oh, that's right. I had a good idea once.
Yeah. Once upon a time, there was a good idea.
Yeah. And then I can just search them.
Yeah. And I would just like to point out that wasn't hyperbole for me. I legit, it's 40,210. I know I am the queen of hyperbole and I overstate things a lot. It's legit a number I read off my phone. It's fine. Everything's fine. And yeah, don't tell Jason. Okay. Anyway, continuing on. Announcements. We have a Savage Worlds actual play.
What? That sounds awesome.
GM'd by Ingie.
Me?
That's starting up on April 4th.
Oh my God, I better get ready.
Yeah, it's very exciting. We have some, it's interesting because you have a collection of players some of whom are very familiar to us, but are going to be new for the Happy Jacks audience.
Yes.
So it's going to be very fun.
It's really exciting. 2 of them were in the one shot.
Yes.
That I jammed a couple weeks ago, and they're so awesome.
Yeah, Darby and Vixie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just very excited. We've been, now that we're like cons in the LA area and gaming groups have started meeting up again at local gaming shops and stuff like that, we're starting to run into meeting new people again.
Yes.
Which has always been one of my favorite things about this whole thing, like gaming in general, but also like Happy Jacks, is like going and playing with someone and being like, "You're amazing, cool, come join our club."
Yeah.
Like, so that's been really neat to have that story
We're
happen
inclusive.
again. Yeah. Well, and like Darby, I met at Big Bad Con, and it's just lots of fun.
Yeah, Brian and I have been playing together since the pandemic. Like, he's part of my like Wednesday night awesome group,
awesome.
and he and I are turning the world that we're going to be playing in into a book.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
yeah, he has played in a bunch of Happy Jacks one shots, especially at the cons.
Yeah.
When we used to stream live from the conventions at Strategicon, we used to do a ton of games. I'm glad we don't do that anymore. I loved doing it, but it was also exhausting to manage that and also run games at the same time. People would run back and forth. "Hey, Kimmy, we're having a problem with the stream." "Okay, you all sit here and do the thing. I'll be right back." Like, just a lot of things to manage. I have enough stuff to manage. But if you go back and watch those, you'll see Brian show up on those. So he's excited to come to his first studio game.
I'm actually like it occurred to me I'm excited to play with him in person.
Yeah.
Which I've only done like once or twice.
Interesting. That's so funny. And I'm just used to like hanging out and drinking with him. All right, so that'll be amazing. And April 4th. Our next game days will be May 18th. So if you want to play in that, there's already a couple games posted. One of them is based on Deep Space Nine. It's I forget what it is. It's something but it's like something on the promenade. You're just like, yes, I love it. So it's not going to be like, I mean, maybe it will be space fighting, but I get space mall vibes, and I love it. I really want to play in that game. I don't know if I can. But
So funny. It's like my brain was like Deep Space Nine, Space Mall.
Yeah, that's exactly. I love it.
That's literally just
It's one of the biggest inspirations for Starscape. I love Deep Space Nine, and I just like, yes, promenade. Okay. So those are our announcements for this month. Our indie designer of the month, Logan Timmons, is a trans queer designer and the creative force behind Breathing Stories. You can find his games at breathingstories.itch.io. You can find him on tumblr.com/breathing-stories or on Twitter at ink_and_stories. So this week, okay, this is actually... I was listening to one podcast that then referred to this other podcast and then was like, yeah, this podcast is by Logan Timmons. I was like, I'm sorry, what? I know this name. So because I was listening to this other podcast that talked about this, we're not talking about a game this week. Logan actually runs a very cool podcast that I ended up listening to called Lyrical Ludology, which I Googled. Actually, Ingy Googled it before the show. The study of games.
Yes.
Which is really cool because I was like, oh, Ludo, this is interesting. I'm sure it's an actual thing. So
all I could think of was like, Ludo loves Sarah or whatever.
Yes. So Lyrical Ludology is a short-form interview podcast about lyric games and that niche in the tabletop RPG hobby. And each episode is about 10 to 15 minutes, very easily digestible, one at a time, and perfect for a binge listen if that's like more your style. And it's suitable for fans of lyric games and those who have never heard of them also. It's the first. I was only able to listen to the first couple episodes. I think there's only like 7 or 8 of them. It's very new, so it may be something that's started since I talked to Logan about being our indie designer of the month. The first few are with Jay Dragon, and it's very interesting. Like Jay always has amazing design things to say, especially about the word choice and the point of view that a RPG book is written from. I highly suggest they've done a bunch of different podcast appearances talking about those things, but it's a really great series. The first few episodes of Lyrical Ludology about that, and it's just really interesting to hear. I don't know. I love lyric games, whatever you think that is, and I especially love focusing on the voice that a game has, because I think that's very important. I think we are moving away from the RPG as an instruction manual only.
Thank God. Thank God. When Benji and I wrote Space Bastards back in like 2002 or whatever it was. We like wrote it as a comedy book. And with jokes and like all the stuff in there, and people loved it. And it was like, okay, yeah, this has got to be what it is.
Yeah, and I think for so long people have like been stuck in this. Well, you have the manual part that's just like facts and like, you know, like you're putting a refrigerator together or IKEA furniture or whatever, and then there's like the good parts, like the role play parts. And I feel like a lot of games are starting to balance that out better now.
Yeah.
Some of them, like some of the vampire books, go a little too far, and you're like, I need the mechanic. Can I stop reading this novel part? It's great, but like, I need to figure out how to do this.
I've definitely gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, like, no, like, what is this power? It's got a weird name. Yeah.
So, but I love the idea that you need to pick a narrator for your RPG book. You know, is the narrator like, as in many books of, you know, you're like an unnamed person at the publishing company who's just giving you facts and figures? Or, you know, is it the AI who runs your game? Or is it like the scientist who is studying the alien who's now murdering you all? Or like whatever it is, like I think that's a really cool take, as long as you manage to balance that with it being a functional reference manual as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, because like having standard way of saying things in your text is like so important to me now. Yeah. And certain games are way better at it than others.
Yeah. I feel like this is a whole nother topic, but we could go into.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
I could go on.
On and on. So Logan was recently like had a thing posted in the Rascal News site, which if you don't know about RPG news, the Rascal, go there. The thing about lyric games is that there is no single agreed upon definition for what they are. That in and of itself is really interesting to me. I wanted to chat with designers around the world to hear their different perspectives and flesh out what is a lyric game. So that is Logan's reason for starting the podcast.
Love it.
Yeah, super interesting. And I love that like goal of like trying to triangulate all these artistic visions of what something is. And you probably won't ever arrive at like a conclusion, but it's still neat to figure out what it is to all these different people.
Which sounds fascinating. I love that.
Yeah. Plus, I love it's like little 10-minute chunks because I don't drive very far. And so it's one of those things where it's like I've got my long podcasts that I listen to when I'm doing yard work or laundry or something like that. And then I've got like these like small podcasts like this that I like my 10-minute drive to work.
My little bites.
Yeah. This is what I listen to during my 20-minute recess break because I get recess too. All those things. So yeah. Anyway, so I know I'm supposed to usually like focus on a game, but I happened to run into this, and Logan, it's a very good podcast. I really liked it, and it's got, you know what, a lot for a new podcast. It has very good sound quality too.
That's always nice.
Yes, and I'm very forgiving of that, having lived through a couple bumpy eras of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. When we first moved into this studio, I had to learn the whole thing, and we had to figure out all the little. Because whenever you move an entire studio of equipment, weird ghosts appear, and we tried to upgrade some equipment, and it didn't like old equipment, and it just like, we had some bumps, and I appreciate those of you who like lived through that time. Oh, yeah. But yeah, so I'm forgiving of that, but I was very pleasantly surprised.
Dealing with camera that's not great right now, and then YouTube crunch.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Thought.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's our Indie Designer of the Month. And Logan will be our Indie Designer of the Month for one more weekend. Oh. And then it will be April. We'll see what we're doing. April!
That's my birthday.
Me too!
Yay!
And my kiddo.
Yay!
So many birthdays. And Jason, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Jason and I are birthday twins.
Nice.
It's weird, but cool.
Yeah.
All right. It was one of those things like, for our first couple years of friendship, we kept forgetting. And every year we got to like rediscover, hey, no way, that's your birthday? Yeah, that's your birthday. Because we both have ADHD and we forget things.
Oh, yeah, all the time. I know my brother or my sister's birthday, I know. My brother's birthday, I got mixed up with a concert that I went to, Depeche Mode, in the 80s. And I'm like, it's the 2nd or the 4th. can never remember. One of them was the concert, which was equally as important to me as my brother's birthday. Everybody else in my family, no idea.
That's funny.
Yep.
I think The Cure was my first concert, and I think Depeche Mode was my second concert. It was I think it was the 89 to 98 tour. The 98 end, obviously, but
Yeah.
I think that was, I remember, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that was
The
definitely
one,
one that I
yeah,
went to.
yeah. So, all right. Anyway, thanks everyone for hanging in there
Yeah.
for our ramblings tonight. It's
For
okay.
rambles. Yeah.
I'm enjoying it.
We're going to do it.
Yep. This is what happens when
You're
your
going to hear
friends.
friendship tonight, everybody.
Yeah, friendship. I mean, I feel like our friendship's almost old enough to drink.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, because, yeah.
because I was 18
Okay.
when I joined Fair.
I just remember where we were when we started hanging out.
It was at the Reef at like Devore.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Back along the fence with all the cottonwood that would blow in the afternoons, and you'd go to like sing a big note, and you'd take this big inhale, and the cottonwood would just boom, straight down your throat, and you'd be like,
Yeah, dying. Yeah. Oh, the fun of
Good times.
singing at Fair. And people are like, "Why don't you do Fair anymore?" Because if I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna sing in air conditioning.
yes.
All right. Topic tonight. We finally made it to the topic. Good job.
Hey, all right.
How do you balance the PC spotlight as a GM? We're going to share our good and bad habits and where we learned them or developed them, I guess, for bad habits.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, I learned my bad habit from
watching you.
Yeah. All right. So first, I feel like we should start with bad habits.
Start with bad habits.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should totally start with bad habits.
I think one of my bad habits with this is I tend to, and I think it's partially from being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to be the teacher who like calls on the kid who I don't think is paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's bullshitty and not good.
Yeah.
And if they're not paying attention, that makes them feel unsafe and not cool. But I sometimes do that as a GM. Like, not on purpose.
Because they're adults.
I mean, they are kind of adults. But I do it more like in my head, it clicks. I haven't shared, this person hasn't been in the spotlight for a while. I want to make sure they get some.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I need to telegraph that more. Like before I'm like, and Hobbit, where have you been? Like,
Now I want you to give me a 2-minute unprepared dissertation.
I mean, and I part of it's, I think, because I'm a little spoiled. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have a very good collection of players that I've worked hard to build over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
So
Over the past few centuries.
for the past few
Sorry.
decades. I'm only decades old.
Mm-hmm.
But so I feel like I need to. One of my bad habits is to suddenly be like, Angie, what are you doing right now while this is happening?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like it's not out of malice or like trying to get you. It's just like, oh, so and so hasn't done this. Why don't you do this now? And that's like, oh, my brain was there and not yours.
My Wednesday night group is full of actors and writers and like industry people, and so I can like one of our players, Alora, I'm just gonna name check her straight up, is kind of a audience member player, right?
Mm-hmm.
She likes to show up, hang out, like she has like a beer and rolls dice and she's having a great time. But she's also an actor. So if I call on her, I know like she can go from I'm having a great time watching this to tears in like 2 seconds.
That's cool.
Yeah, I watched her like pull out a speech to like her ancestors and like
Whoa.
yeah, like tears are going and all the stuff's happening, and I'm actually really good at like getting them to that point.
Yeah.
But people who aren't them, the group that I played with yesterday, like that I play with like once a month in person, I can like be like, all right, you. And some of them are not comfortable like talking in character, and they want to like, one of them was like, came up with some sort of suggestion. And I was like, that seems like it'd be a really fun thing to role play. And they were like, yeah, it does, John.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Fortunately, I have players who also bite back. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah. Let's see. I think another bad habit, and this is like spotlight specific.
Yeah.
I definitely have to focus myself on paying attention to not just focusing on the really engaged players.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for my One Ring campaign, it was so easy for me. Like I love Kai. They
I know.
are just amazing. And like we just became like we'd never really spent a lot of time together before that campaign. We met each other, and then we like became best friends and Lord of the Rings friends, and we're just like best Lord of the Rings
I'm
friends
super
ever.
jealous.
And like, it was just there was so much that like between our friendship and between our shared understanding of Tolkien minutia,
Yes.
that it was like so easy to just keep kind of pointing the spotlight that direction. And it wasn't like pointing at other people as a chore. Like everyone was incredible at that table. It was just so easy because like Elvish stuff is like my favorite thing too.
Yes.
And we just like go into the thing, and it was so fun for me to like drop in Easter eggs of really ridiculous, very obscure Tolkien stuff, and Kai would be like, "Oh my gosh," and I'd be like, "Yeah, right," and everyone else would be like, "What the fuck is happening?"
What's happening? I'm throwing cookies at the crowd, but only one of the crowd.
Yeah, I know. And so I have to be careful, especially. I mean, that was also kind of a gift to me to run that campaign and like have all of that together. But I have to, when I am incredibly interested in something, I have to watch with my ADHD brain that I don't constantly keep turning back to that myself.
Yeah, I have a tendency to either have like one player that it's really, really like, I know what this guy can do, or this girl, or this they can do, and like I can just throw the ball to that person at any time, and I love doing it because they play exactly how I want someone to play.
Yeah.
And everyone else feels kind of left out, and all of a sudden, like, you know, I haven't done this in a while because I've gotten pretty good at like going back and forth, but certainly have had times where it's like I am highlighting this person too much in the game where now they are the main character out of 5 people. And that's bad. What I will do to this day, though, is like starting up a new campaign. My Wednesday night group, we're finishing at one campaign and we're going to start another one. And there's one character, and it happens every time, one character I get a little obsessed with. And all those notes that I emailed to myself, half of them are about her. And I'm like, oh yeah, this would be cool, and this would be cool, and this would be cool. And I have to like sit down and go like, oh, okay, hang on a second. Like, I need to weave some other stuff in. And also like, I can't fulfill all of her backstory stuff by like level 3. Like that's
No. And that's hard because you get so excited about stuff that they have come up with or things that they've contributed to the story. Sometimes it's hard not to just like, you know, jump in feet first and like, you know, you want to try and pace that out. And sometimes that can be hard to like, you know, pace your enthusiasm for their contributions to the story.
Yeah. And then also like another thing that I've found, and I think this is kind of related, is throwing the spotlight on the, say, dungeon you're in, you know, because we're in the end game, and I'm like, I have to make an end game dungeon that is, you know, relevant to these people. I mean, and that's what I love doing. I'm a writer. Like I don't like taking other things. I'm like, get this out of here. And so I always have to like make my own thing. And I'm like, okay, well then it's going to go from here to there and here to there and here to there. And I'm like, okay, now I need to think of how can I weave character into every encounter and like make them feel it. So if they don't feel it, if it's just going through and like, you know, smushing demons, whatever. But if I can rip their hearts out at the same time, that's what I really want to do.
That's your job,
Yeah.
like, right? Ripping hearts out.
Yeah, sadness and gay stuff.
Yeah.
That's
The GM's entire. Good.
And then there's like during game
Mm-hmm.
where you've got like say a split party. So which is how I originally read this question of like, you know, I'm going to concentrate on you three and then we're going to go over to these two, which is something that I've gotten really good at.
Yeah.
Because especially like once I started writing like TV stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's like if you watch, they will ramp up the drama and right at the maximum drama, that's when you switch over to the other people and you let them hang. You do not resolve that drama before moving to the next people.
Yeah. And we've talked about that before. The easiest reference for that is soap operas.
Yes.
Do soap operas, somewhat cheesy. Pause and gasp, and then cut to the next thing. And, yeah, it's like the dramatic timing for things. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what one of the good habits of like sharing the spotlight.
Yes.
I think one thing I have gotten better about, I think partially because I suddenly am like, okay, it's your turn. What do you want to, you know? I think giving people thinking time is something that I've developed. Again, as a teacher, I probably should have already been doing that, but especially streaming, like I've gotten really good at being like, okay, Ingy, like, what are you doing during this? And then if you have that look on your face, for everyone who's like listening, because this is actually a podcast, you can't see my face, like it's that frozen like deer in the headlights look of. I don't know. Like then it's like
I'm sorry, me what?
Yeah. So that's when you like I pause and I'm like, okay, so like you're here, right? And like I'll say, okay, Ingy, what are you doing this whole time? So remember so and so's there and so and so's there. Like that's me stalling. Like you don't it's not me actually thinking you need to be reminded of where everybody is. That's me giving you like a break. And like if you're at a home table, like when I'm running home games or like at local game stars and stuff like I'm doing tomorrow, like I'm not gonna be like filling the silence. Like it's just like, okay, take a minute to think about it. You know, sometimes I'm like, did anyone buy snacks? I'll go maybe buy snacks. Like those are the different vibes.
You guys think about that. I'm a pee.
Yeah, exactly. The bathroom break. Yes. All those moments of like, you know, giving thinking time. I think I've gotten very good at that part.
Yeah, I've gotten good at that. And the other thing I've gotten really good at with like rejoining this group and like hearing everyone else's advice and just like actually like looking into it a bunch is giving them thinking time before game and like collaborating with them and conspiring with them sometimes or just being like, hey, at some point tonight you're going to be asked about this thing, so like have that on your mind. Do you remember when we did that? Because also like something that might be fresh in my mind or like stuck with me might be something that flew past them.
Yeah.
And it also could have happened like 8 months, a year and a half ago. And they're like, wait, the what now?
Yeah.
Or like, it could have been a long week.
Yeah.
They don't remember.
Yeah.
That's happened to me every week.
Yeah.
So.
But it's something that was really interesting to you. So your brain like glommed onto it and won't let go.
Yeah. And it's like, I want to give this the weight it kind of deserves and like the fun drama of the situation. So, hey,
Heads up.
I want to like talk a little bit about this. We don't have to talk about what we're going to talk about. I just want you to be in that mindset and thinking about it, if that's cool.
That's so good. And then that way, when you point the spotlight at them, they're ready and they've thought of some things and they can weave it in like appropriately.
I've had people show up with stuff written, all sorts of stuff. It's
That's
great.
So good.
Yeah. Especially when it's something that they're excited about with their character. And then they get to prepare for it instead of just like having to pull it out of their ass in the moment.
Yeah. I'm sort of torn on that. Like some of the most, I think you have to kind of do a balance of that because, like nobody likes being caught off guard when they can't think of something. But it's also like sometimes the greatest things are the things that you don't have a bunch of time to think about. I think some of the absolute most beautiful, amazing things that have entered campaigns I've GM'd are things that people like came up with on the spot or happened by accident.
Yeah.
And just for whatever reason became kind of like centers of the campaign. So like
I'm dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
Well, dealing with that. I'm enjoying that right now
Yes.
with my like once a month in-person crew. Because one of the players said she needed. She was talking about how she needed a lot of this one particular thing. All right, it was lube. She said she wanted a barrel of lube.
Okay.
And I said, no, you want a Barrel-O lube from the Barrel-O, which I was like, it's like a Costco, but in Aldgate. And the entire group has glommed onto it so much that it is now the center point of the campaign. Yesterday, they all stood up and ripped open their jackets, and they had T-shirts on that were for the Texas Saddle Ranch Roadhouse, brought to you by Barrel-O, because it becomes such a big thing. And then they gave me a shirt, and they wrote me like the sweetest note, and I totally cried and gave everybody hugs.
They were really,
Yeah.
oh, that's so cute. I thought you meant like in game. They all had like Barrel of Lube shirts. So it's like, that's cool. It's like so fun.
No,
but like
it's
in
like-
real,
Yeah,
that's
I'll show you a picture.
dedication. That's
Not
very
right
good.
now, but
That's awesome. That when something is so important to players that they like have like they bring like props or,
Yeah.
or like matching outfits. It's so good.
yeah, and they adopted one of the Barrel-O kids.
Aw.
Yeah, who like I just made like this 14-year-old nerdy kid who like had a little crush on one of them, and he kind of talked like this. He was like, "Here you go, here's your cake," you know. And I just wanted to do a funny voice, and they were like, one of the guys was like, "We want to take you," and he was like, "I want to be a knight," you know.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so they're like using him to cook stuff and watch their Vardo.
Yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
I think trying to like give credit where credit is due, like where I learned some of the best things. One, like I think honestly, paying attention to the pacing of television and movies
Yeah,
is huge.
huge.
And knowing like how to feel out those moments of, and let's switch to this person or things like that. If you do a good job and your party's all in the same place, you don't have to worry about it quite so much.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm a huge proponent of people splitting off and doing different things, as long as the GM can like pace it, which that's why you watch soap operas, right?
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about that the other day,
Or
like
Lost.
or,
Yeah.
or Lost. Oh my God, Lost. But like my quintessential memory of being sick as a kid is like, because we didn't have, we couldn't afford cable, so we didn't have cable. So it was like being sick at home and like watching soap operas for a big chunk of the day and not knowing who these people were and trying to like figure out what was happening because I didn't get to stay home and watch them. And it's like, you know, they move at like 2 minutes a week or 2 minutes a day or whatever it is. It's something ridiculous. So it's like 3 big, meaningful conversations are happening. I can't believe you cheated on me. I can't believe that your baby is actually so-and-so's like twin clone or whatever it is, you know? And I'm just like 8 or 9 and like trying to parse this out like while I have a fever.
What's going on?
Yeah. I'm like eating popsicles. And like I was thinking about that the other day because my kid was sick this week, so she stayed home from school. Luckily, I was on spring break, so I didn't have to take days off work. But like she just like has any content she wants on demand. Like there's none of this. You have to suffer through whatever's on TV. Like she just has like made to order whatever she wants when she doesn't feel well, and I'm just like,
Well,
I guess that's good. But how are you going to GM when you get older, kid? If you don't
Exactly.
watch soap operas, sorry, I'm just kidding. That's not what I was thinking.
I, as a kid, remember there was some point where I think I may have been homesick and had this soap opera on, and my mom came in the room and like switched it over to The Price is Right because she said
Yes.
and she said no, I don't want you watching soap operas, but what I heard was I don't want you watching soap boppers.
Oh.
So they're soap
Yeah,
operas.
soap
yeah.
oppers, nice. Yeah, that's right. The Price is Right was on during the day.
Yeah, Press Your Luck.
Yeah.
Hard Sharks.
Hard Sharks. Yeah. All those things like middle of the day TV. Interesting. All right. Anyway. Sorry, I was just like, I don't know why I went down that tangent, but it was just kind of an interesting.
Yeah,
Look at
it's that, and then also like, I think the biggest skill that I have learned, and like this is something that is not easy for some people to learn, or somewhat impossible for some people to learn, and then also, it's not one of those things that like I can give you advice on how to do it. You just got to like do it a lot. is just reading the room.
Yeah.
Like noticing when when people start picking up their phones or are not really paying attention anymore. And you've gotten enough done over here that now you can go over there and engage them a little bit. And then as the other players start to get bored, you come back to them. And that's just, it's hard.
It is. And a lot. And like you said, like, there are some things that you can't be just told how to do. Like you can be told how to do it, but then it takes practice. Like singing, dancing, all these things that like you just have to practice. Like someone could tell me how to tap dance all day long.
Oh yeah. And Phil will do that.
And yeah. This is what happens when you have a friend whose friendship is old enough to drink. They start talking about your exes at you.
Oh shit, that's right.
That's
Should
right.
have said Steven. But it makes more sense.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, no, a lot of tap dancing talk. But I can't tap dance. Like worth like at all. Nothing.
I can do this.
Yeah, I'm
but,
like, I can do, like, yeah, I can, no. But so like, there's just some things that take practice because you have to build up the muscle memory, the feel for it. And GMing is one of those things where some of those things are just things you have to get better with at practice. And you have to kind of accept that, like tap dancing or singing, you're not going to be very good at it at first.
Yeah.
And you just have to kind of be like,
just embrace the suck.
Yeah.
You know?
And don't stop doing it. Just keep practicing it.
Yeah, because you'll get better. And also, like, jamming is very often very low stakes. So even if you suck at it, people can have a really good time.
They have amazing time.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with sharing the spotlight. Like, a lot of times that's something people are very ready to give feedback on. Like sometimes people like hesitate to like critique your story or things like that because those feel more personal. But I, at least in my experience, when people are doing, you know, Roses and Thorns or Stars and Wishes or whatever, or if you're just being like, hey, did you like everything? Like a lot of times people will say, I would love to have more time with my character. Like that's something that people are often, not always, but often more willing to say rather than critiques of like, I hate the villain or I don't like how you do this or whatever. So I think
the
that's
storyline is stupid.
terrible. Yeah. I think that's something that's easier to get feedback on as you're learning to GM than other types of feedback.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Mailbag number 1.
Let's get to that mailbag.
Why don't you read it for us?
I'll take it. Hello to the Jacks, Jills, and possible pills that might read this. I've been lucky enough to hang out and play Mage with Derek, even if he forbids us to watch Adam run it, if only to avoid house rule collisions. Or collisions.
Shockingly, Adam house rules a lot of Mage.
What?
I don't know why. We never do that here at Happy Jacks. We follow the rules to the letter at all times.
All times.
For every system.
Yeah, I'm certainly
Stop laughing. Stop. Stop. You. Yes, you. Stop laughing. Okay, continue.
Okay.
I was talking to you at home, by the way, not at Ingy. You stop laughing.
I have had a blast playing games on the regular with other grown-ups for a couple of months here. Trying to avoid the whole, let me tell you about my character montage here, but his primary motivation is helping people become the best version of themselves and has kind of pissed off the main antagonist every chance he could. Yay! I like this character. I am kind of neurospicy on the ASD side of things, but tend to cover it reasonably well. A side of that is that I never know where I am at with social interactions. GMing, for example, is really hard in general post-game because reading a room is impossible. Similarly, insecurity demons have shown up to talk to my brain about, maybe you are making the plot about your guy way too much in this campaign. I don't think I'm bossing people around, but people are hard. Word.
Yeah.
No adult conversations have been had. I'm trying to apply my follow, lead, or get out of the way mentality, which I read ahead and I really like this. Follow. If someone is doing something, help let them lead. Lead. If no one is doing anything, my bad idea is better than nothing. Get out of the way. I don't even need to be in this scene. I'm going to watch. My question to you all is, how do you as a player try to avoid pulling the spotlight onto yourself? Follow-up, is it sometimes okay to feel like the center of tension for an arc? Thanks for all you do. Byron, JD Grizz on the Discord.
I think we need to start at the end.
Yeah.
Yes, it's absolutely fine for your character to be the center of attention for some arcs.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You should want that and expect that.
Yes.
It should not be something that it should never be your turn to be the center of attention.
Yeah. I have heard some people who say like, oh, I hate it when players have character backstories because like then it's about you and like you're at some point. I'm like, well, I always have somebody who's like the main part of a character arc, but I also reassure the other players, we're gonna get to you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, this person is kind of the center of this story, and we're gonna get to everybody.
I think that's one of the things that comes with like building up a relationship with your players as a GM.
Mhm.
And I know we're going to talk about from the player side of it in a second, JD, but like people understanding that you're going to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, especially if you're good about sharing the spotlight in a specific session and you start and people can see you're following what the story needs and not just like forcing it down your throat, or if it makes sense for a story to follow a specific character, then they're more willing to go along with it, as long as you make sure that they have ways to contribute to their narrative as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you build up that trust of, hey, this that we're telling the best story together, then they're like more willing to be like, okay, well, this session and next session are probably going to be about this character, then it'll be someone else's turn, and then it'll be and then like everyone gets their shot.
Mm-hmm.
And that way they don't get stressed about it, I think.
Yeah, and there's even when it's your turn to be to have the spotlight on you, which can be very uncomfortable, especially for us narrow, spicy people. You can still make it a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the rest of the players will go like, this decision has to be up to you. And I've seen that happen too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you're a generous player, everyone's going to enjoy your storyline.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. And I think going now to kind of your first question, how do you as a player try to avoid pulling the spotlight onto yourself? I think the first thing you need to ask yourself, especially as a neurospicy variety, is, are you doing that too much?
Mm-hmm.
Are you giving everyone else the spotlight all the time so you're not getting it? Because we tend to either, like you said, people are really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to kind of read the room. This is why, as a GM who's neurospicy, you need to like practice. Understanding if we're taking too much of the spotlight and also if we're giving it away too much. Those are both things that we tend to do, because balancing those two things is hard for us. We either feel, oh, I'm so selfish, I'm taking it all the time, or we don't recognize that we are being selfish and taking it all the time, which is like the conundrum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've definitely had, I'm sure you can't imagine this, but on occasion, I have taken the spotlight and run with it.
What?
I know. Crazy.
Amazing. Also, we always play everything by the rules, like as written on Happy. Yeah. So.
And yeah, so I tend to be very self-conscious of that these days.
Yeah.
If I'm playing in a game of like like the get out of the way thing, like I don't need to be in this scene. Like that's a thing I think a lot of people don't even ask themselves, because I've noticed even some very good players who always want to talk during other people's scenes.
Yes.
And just like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Hang on. Let them do their thing. And some people just doesn't occur to them that maybe they should just be quiet.
Yeah. No,
And-
for sure.
Yeah. And I've definitely had moments of like, there's nothing that hurts more in my soul than letting the joke go
Yes.
and letting it die before it even sees air.
Yeah.
I would rather have a bad joke in the air than have any joke die inside me. But like when two people are having like a good moment,
Yeah.
I have had to learn to shut the fuck up.
And I am so proud. Not to sound like patronizing, but like, again, having a friendship that's almost old enough to drink.
Yeah.
Like it's been remarkable, like seeing honestly over all these years. Like I'm very proud of you for that.
Well, thank you.
As a friend.
Yeah, I like to work on myself.
Yeah, you did good. But yeah, recognizing that in yourself, one, takes a lot of work. Like even just being able to recognize that. Most people struggle to even recognize things like that with themselves. And then like to put in the work to actually do something about it and change that is, it's hard. And I think on the opposite end, I think there's people who constantly are trying to not be the center of attention and are constantly like, even if they have things to contribute, they hesitate to do it or they give it to someone else. That's another thing I've seen players do and have occasionally done myself because I tend to be the opposite. I tend to not be the one who inserts myself all the time. I tend to monitor things. And then if there's like a quiet moment, I'll like step in to like fill the silence or to bring people together.
Yeah.
Like again, like constantly managing everybody. Like if someone has a great idea, they'll like share it with someone else, like on Slack or writing a note or telling them. So then the other person, like the other character comes up with the idea. Yeah. Which sometimes makes more sense. And that's incredibly giving as a player. But if you're always doing that, then
you're just playing other people's characters.
Well, it's
almost.
I mean, yeah, in some way, but it's also like I'm not going to say that's wrong because if you're having a great time and you just don't want to be, sometimes it's awesome to always be the sidekick. It's very cool to be the Robin to Batman all the time. And if that's like a character choice you've chosen, that's fine. But even Robin gets storylines in the comics sometimes. Yeah. So just making sure that you're recognizing when it's appropriate for your character to be the center. Which can be really hard. And there's going to be moments, hopefully, where the GM creates a situation that is clearly for your character. Whether that's a minute, like where some, move or spell or something, whatever ability of yours is like the key. Or if it's something with your backstory or with your relationship with another character, whatever it is, like when those moments present themselves, take them. Take that. They are provided for you with a red carpet and the spotlight is waiting with like nice soft bounce light. It's all there to make you look good and like do it. Take it. It's not selfish if people are presenting you an opportunity and you accept it. So I think that's something to keep in mind too. If you're having trouble just reading the room, like ask the GM off screen, like, hey, could there be an opportunity for my character sometime soon? And like, maybe not sometime soon. That sounds a little confrontational, but I would love to have some cool moments for my character coming up. And then when they present them to you, like, just take them. Then that's the easiest way to deal with that.
I think that's the hardest thing. It's like, can be. Yeah. And I think that again is like one of those things where you got to feel it out and eventually learn it. Like today, Jason threw me like a little happy piece in our Pinnacles game at happyjacks.org. Pinnacles, right? Yeah.
/ Pinnacles, yeah.
/ Pinnacles. And and I just I had to take like 2 moments from the day, and one of them it was just like it was something that my character is going through, but also like I have struggled with in the past, and it definitely brought up a lot of emotions, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And then I had to go against what the party was doing at one point, but only for like a turn, just so that I could. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't listened yet, but yeah. But I felt really good about that because it was also not all about me. Right. It was just all about me for a very short time. Yeah.
Well, and like that sounds like it's a moment that was created on purpose by the GM.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a big difference, and I think it is hard sometimes to tell the moments that are created by the collaboration of the table for your character, and someone who just slams in the door like Gaston style, like shoves everyone else out of the way and like takes the spotlight. Those are 2 very different things.
It's all about me.
Yeah. And can tell we've been on stage for long enough. We kind of harmonized. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got to allow yourself to start figuring out the difference of, and not conflating those two things.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between demanding and stealing the spotlight and simply stepping into it when it's offered to you.
Mm-hmm.
And any good group is giving you those opportunities to just step in.
Yeah.
I hope that helps. I don't know if that helped. I feel like we talked a lot about stage lighting. Whenever we talk about spotlights, inevitably
Yeah. And I think like as a GM, like one of the things that I will actually do is sit down and go like, all right, here's the storyline that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the ideas that I have for the characters, and I'll write down all the characters and realize I have 3 of them that I have ideas for, and I got to come up with 2 more.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
And it's okay to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to, like, shoot them a text. Hey, like what are some things you'd love to have, like opportunities or story beats for your character? Like you don't have to, as the GM, create them all.
Mm-hmm.
Like let the players ask you for what they want, and then just give them what they want. Maybe not as they expect or in the order that they
certainly
want.
make sure it's twisted like a promise to an archfey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, they will let you know. And a lot of times just looking at their character sheets it tells you what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a loner. I'm alone all the time, and I'm alone, and I'm lonely, and I'm alone.
Alone, and I have nobody that I'm related to.
My sword is my best friend. It's like, do you want?
And I don't trust people.
Yeah.
And
Are you? Should you get kicked out of this game, or do you want friends? It's like obviously you want friends. I mean, it's like Batman. Like again, I know I'm reading a Batman comic right now. This is why it keeps coming up. But it's like Batman, like no, has no friends. It's like no, he adopts every child he meets,
everyone,
and turns like he has the Bat family is legit a thing. Like
Bat fam.
yeah, exactly. It's like they have so many people. Like yeah, so
I had just a little aside, particularly on that, because I have like some very strong feelings about that, is that making a character playing in a game is an act of vulnerability. And it is trusting in your GM. And I believe that trust has to be earned.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when people are like, I don't have anything that I'm actually connected to, or like, I have no ways for you to get me. Mm-hmm. That means that they have been hurt before and are trying to protect themselves. And, you know, it might take a little bit of trust building to do that. Like I had my friend Craig, who played a dwarf in my campaign 30 years ago. I was like, who is your family? And he's like, I don't have a family. I'm like, you're a dwarf. You guys like have huge families. You got to have some family. And he was like, nope, nobody. And so I had a family show up. And like, it was one of the most emotional nights for him, because like his dad was dying and he like left him his thing. And like, these were all his cousins. And he was like, I never had this connection before. And we're going to march him back up the hill into the mines. We're going to bury him and I'm going to take over for him. Aww. And then they got attacked. And and stuff happened.
Yeah.
Bad things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I murdered that entire clan of dwarves, he felt it.
Yeah. Gosh, trust issues, right?
Yeah, I try not to do that as much
anymore. Yeah.
But yeah, that was an advanced game.
Yeah. Well, and once you have a campaign going for long enough too, you have more like wiggle room to do things like that, because there's more time to do the hills and valleys of the character story.
Yeah, because he absolutely 100% had the chance to get his revenge, rebuild his people, find some surviving family members, and feel like I won.
Yeah.
You know, like we're going to rebuild. Like this is a really terrible tragedy that happened, but we're going to rebuild and I'm going to be at the head of it.
Yeah.
So like, I like my players to feel like the heroes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in order to feel like a hero, you got to get knocked down sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So as long as you're pairing it with both. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just do.
Yeah. But I do like going back to like what you're saying, like, if they're making a character and they are optimizing them to not have any vulnerability in any way, yes, one, that is absolutely a sign of I've been hurt before. It's like, okay, yeah. But also like like I had someone ask me the other day because I've been doing a bunch of rewrites on Starscape and in various Discords. I ask for input randomly. And I don't remember if it was Happy Jack's Discord or any of the other ones I'm on. Like someone was like, well, with the way you've written this mechanic, like if they just decide that they're a loner that never engages with anybody, like they're not going to be able to, like, I forget what it was. Like they basically wouldn't be able to play. I'm like, yeah. Like it's literally written like
it's gamifying.
Yeah.
You have to engage with the game.
Yeah. It's you are a found family on a spaceship. Like you can't just be I mean like yes, you can be a loner for a certain number of sessions and eventually you will have to leave or something. Like the way the mechanics work, you run out of the economy that is in the game and you either have to change playbooks or you have to do something. Because I very specifically designed that. And they were like, oh. Thank you for confirming that I did exactly what I wanted to do with that. But it's also one of those things that's like, if you're playing that way, you're not engaging with the game anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not really worried about that. Like I don't want to waste time designing for everybody who might pick up the game to play it wrong.
Yeah. That's absolutely a waste of time.
Yeah, it's like someone picking up D&D and being like, I am going to play a pacifist who won't fight at all.
Uh-huh.
Which just happens.
Uh-huh.
I've been in yeah. and like games I've been at and I've been like
I'm like, this is a game about killing monsters.
yeah, like
that's what all these books are about.
yeah.
Is it about how to kill them or like the monsters?
Yeah, it's like literally all it is. Like if you want to play that game, I am all for playing that game.
Yeah.
But not in this system. Pick a different system.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of other systems where you can play a pacifist, have very meaningful emotional things, like go up against people who disagree with you about your pacifist life. D&D is not like you're not
the place to be a pacifist.
Yeah, you're not buying into the premise of the mechanics. Sorry. Speaking of trauma,
But yeah.
about game trauma, like
Both need to take a breath. But actually, this actually ties into mailbag number 2.
amazing.
What?
We're like very well
Look at you
planned
like
tonight.
a pro.
I'm just kind of like, these are kind of all about the same thing. It's just, it's our years of performing together that just
That's
made
right.
it seamless. All right,
Magic.
mailbag number 2. Dearest Jackases, I'm Connor from Ireland. Here's the GM question, but I'm not going to read it. I'm going to make you sound like a leprechaun. I'm sorry.
Sweet Jesus.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph. But I would certainly like to know how people feel about it as a player too. It's like the one. I have 2 accents, 2.5 accents. Irish-ish is one of them.
I have like at least 3 different Irish accents.
Yeah, it's much better. Mine goes in and out, and every time I start losing it, you'll hear me go randomly, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, because that's how I get it
That's
back.
a touchstone.
Yeah, that's my touchstone. But it's less helpful in a role-playing game. You're like, okay, she's saying that again. She says it a lot. All right. How do you deal with that one player whose character has to be talked into everything? For example, a course of action is suggested and that character doesn't want to do it. But it's every time anyone suggests anything. In extreme cases, it can even be that they don't want anyone to do whatever it is, even if it doesn't involve their own character, until everyone stops and talks them into it. And on like that every session. This is something that I've encountered relatively infrequently, but I haven't seen much talk about it. So I thought I'd ask you kind folks. Thanks a lot, Connor, from Ireland.
From Ireland.
From Ireland.
Yeah, I have no opinion on this.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to breeze over you need to have an adult conversation because I think that's a given.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
out of character.
You need to say, hey, look, it's your job to figure out why your character needs to go on these adventures,
Yes.
not ours. And you're making it all about you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You need to so it's already started. Yeah. I'm down the road, Kimmy.
Take a breath. Take a breath. Thank you. So I think we're assuming that this is, at least from this email, I'm going to assume it's about the PC. So it's about the character,
Yes.
the characterization. So it's not the player doesn't want to do the thing. It's not like, well, I'm worried if we go in there without planning, like there'll be like, like there's a difference between a player having to be talked into everything and a character being talked into everything. So I think specifically this says the character has to be talked into everything. That can be fun to play in specific ways.
Absolutely.
So I think like being difficult or being whiny, like there's always, like, again, using TV as like the thing, there's always like the character's like, but what about this? And like, well, whatever, you know, and they're usually a sidekicky character, you know, and they provide a necessary like exposition often. Like the audience maybe doesn't know that this cave has a dangerous thing in it. Well, I don't want to go in there because blah, blah, blah. Remember, Granny used to tell us that there's a giant snake creature in there. Oh, don't be ridiculous. That was just Grandma's old, you know, whatever it is. So it can, I don't want to say that no one should ever play that character because I've played that character and it can be very fun. But
I have a friend, one of my favorite players I've ever played with. It was her first game. She had never played any game before in her life and showed up knowing more about character creation than I did. You know, and like put this whole thing together, and she was playing this like grumpy half orc, like roguish type of character, Savage World, so you know, no real class, but that was basically thing, but like rogue barbarian. And they go into the first town and the hook shows up and the paladin is like, I think we should go out there and do something. And she just grabs her drink back to the windows and just goes, sounds like a town problem to me. But, and I knew this somehow, she was looking for a reason for her character to go on the adventure. So when the when the main bad guy made the unforgivable sin of referring to himself in the third person, she went outside and she started driving the action. She walked up to him and punched him right out.
There you go.
That bad guy was Elmo.
Amazing. Oh, yeah, all the time. No, I have a toddler. I didn't need you to explain the reference. I know all about Elmo. Especially like when you accidentally step on a Tickle Me Elmo in the night. It's the creepiest fucking sounds. It's just like, oh my God.
Is the thing horror films are made of.
Yeah, like because you're like inevitably, it's like your kid's like asleep. You're like sneaking into their room for something. It's like, okay, I don't want them to wake up. So you've got the double horror of this creepy laughing noise randomly appearing after you've stepped on something's neck. And then the horror of, oh, did they wake up? So it's like, it's all very stressful situation. So, but yeah, anyway. Yeah, I think that's a great example. Yeah. Like, you need to come up with things that work with their character. You might have to ask them out of character, like ask the player, like, what are some things we can do? And I like to think of it in terms of like carrot and stick. Like, all right, there's not that the other characters need to punish them, but like, hey, we heard so-and-so speaks about themselves in the third person. You hate that. Maybe we should, and like dangle that carrot. Like, you like punching Elmo. Go, I hear that Elmo's over there.
Punch me,
like,
Elmo.
Yeah. Punch me, Elmo. Someday. And offering that. Or as a GM, it shouldn't be on the other characters to provide the stick. But as the GM, and you should do it on the up and up. Like, you should not be just doing this to like drive the action. Like, be like, all right, so you realize that in about 10 minutes, the city guard's going to show up and the fight you all just had, you're all going to, whoever's left is going to get lugged off to the thing. You should probably leave town. So again, that's like giving them that time frame to do something. Don't just be like, oh, the city guard shows up and you're all get arrested. It's like, give them time. Like, you hear the bell ringing, the city guard has been summoned. And then they're like, and then if they decide they're going to sit there, okay, then that's like, again, like.
My Saturday crew did exactly that. They went to a brothel where they had to take out a pirate crew, and they took out the pirate crew, blowing up part of the brothel. All of the ladies were fine.
Okay.
And then like went back to their ship and went to sleep. And I asked them 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you know that the rumblers in this town, the cops, they do not put up with this shit. And they are no one to be trifled with.
Yeah.
And I warned them 3 or 4 times. And then they just showed up with all these wagons full of guns and shit.
Did they think that they wouldn't know it was them?
I don't know.
Okay.
No.
They knew it was okay.
They knew that consequences were coming.
Yeah.
They just mentioned it yesterday where they were like, yeah, I don't know what we're thinking.
Because I could see maybe that if they thought that they'd covered their tracks and it was like they'd think it was somebody else.
Yeah,
and,
no,
okay. Especially if you're on a ship, just like sail it out a
they-
little ways. And
That was like they could sail away, but they were talking about like going to the pirate ship, you know, that this crew was from and looting it or sinking it or something like that. And I was like, so you're just gonna sit on that boat in the bay and like at dock and just go to sleep?
yeah.
Yep. Like seriously, that's all you're gonna do?
At least that wasn't just one character though.
That was the whole party.
Like if the whole party agrees on it, if they're gonna sit in that tavern till the cops show up, okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
And you know, sometimes things aren't as clear. So I find you know, clarifying them
Yeah.
a couple of times just to make sure that like I've explained it right. Because sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes the things that I've written in my head don't
Come out of
my
yeah.
mouth.
So you're thinking it very loudly, but for some reason they're not hearing it.
Yeah. Like,
Weird.
why can't you see the thing that's in my head?
Yeah.
And sometimes my mouth just literally skips words.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think like with that, like you gave there was a carrot or a stick coming, and they knew, and they just either like didn't think about it or didn't care. So I think that's a really good example of a stick.
yeah.
So I think always try and go with the carrot if you can, and especially if the other characters can be the ones providing the carrot, like. You know what, like wanting to punch Elmo or something else that the character really likes. Maybe they like getting in fights. Maybe that's going to be the thing.
That's right.
Or maybe they like gems. So it's like, okay, like you will get all the gems. We'll split the rest of us will just take coins. You get to keep all the gems from the next, you know, thing we loot.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in chat, they're saying Scooby snacks.
Scooby snacks.
You gotta give them the Scooby snack.
Exactly.
But yeah, I've run into this. The player who does this, and it's not necessarily the player. I had one guy. We were playing this one campaign where he was playing this character who every time would leave when we were all like sitting around, like being a group, and he would leave and he'd go off and do something else, and like had to be talked into doing stuff, and I just remember being like, dude, you gotta stick with the group. I wasn't even running the game, and he's like, well, my character, and I'm like, yeah, but like that means your character's just because that's what your character might do doesn't mean that's what you should be doing. Right. You got to figure out a reason to stay with the group because that's how this game is played.
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, this is a group effort, and the same thing goes with like if I've got 3-4 players who are playing big damn heroes, and then one character who's playing, I don't care about anything but me.
Yeah.
You know, then that can be a problem, and like maybe they need to make a different character.
Yeah.
If they can't adjust to like, because I'm like I've had this where I've been like I need you to go with the group.
Yeah.
Like it's exhausting for us to have to talk your character into going on the adventure every time.
Yeah. Well, and then like going back to the adult conversation, I don't even think like it doesn't even like it can like sometimes you get to the point where it's just like a cut this the fuck out. But I think it might be healthier and better for friendships long term. Like if you start off as like, hey, I've noticed your character does this. I think it's very interesting. What can we do as a story arc to have them build that trust in the rest of the party? So that this won't happen all the time. Or maybe this only happens with specific things. Like if your character is terrified of the dark, I could see why they'd push back and not want to ever go into caves or dungeons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. And
But there's got to be a way. Like, can we get some goggles?
yeah, or so, yeah, exactly. Like figure that out. Or maybe as a GM, you balance that out. So okay, we're gonna have some fights above ground. You know, like don't run like an all drow fighting campaign in the dark, in the darkness of the underworld, Underdark,
Yeah.
that is. I don't run D&D.
I don't go to the Underdark. I don't like it.
Yeah. I don't like it.
No,
Like find that balance of, okay, we're gonna go on a ship and that's where this adventure's gonna go for a while. It's gonna be really sunny, Mediterranean, ship battles are coming your way because you don't like the dark. That's great, but in addition to that, we're gonna have to have maybe there's, maybe they can bond with another character who they really trust.
Yeah.
So okay, they're terrified of going to the dark. Maybe if they're standing right next to their best friend, they have the courage to do that. So work with them because you can end up with some really great character connections and character building from that hesitation that just contributes to how memorable the campaign can be. Because it seems like, assuming they're playing in good faith,
yes.
they're not just a jerk who wants to be the center of attention. This might be their way of character, having character and characterization by being kind of the negative. No, we can't do that. It's too dangerous. That might be them trying to give personality to a character. So help them with that and facilitate that becoming something more interesting that isn't always contrary to the group.
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate this with my friend Jasmine, who played this character Ophine, who was one of my favorite characters I've ever experienced because of how she played her distant, didn't want to get attached to anybody, took care of the entire crew, right? Would lay her life down for the rest of the adventuring party and then call them names.
Yeah.
And didn't want to help anybody, but was the player always looking for the reason that she would want to do it. And so when the smallest excuse came up, and even if it was well, your NPC girlfriend is going to be disappointed in you, she'd be like, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So there's and that character and that dynamic was so much fun. She even did a thing where I had her father show up, who had created her from these two separate ancestries, and he was like, "You're the only successful one that I've had," and he's like, "Come with me, and we'll rule the world." And she went, "Okay," and I went, "Ah!" Yeah. And then he starts casting the spell, and she's like, I interrupt his spell by stabbing him in the face.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. And that can be a fun iteration of this too. Sometimes people don't know the difference between saying no and air quote fingers saying no. Gosh, I hate going to the dungeon. Oh, I just hate the dark, blah, 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 as they're walking to the dungeon with the party.
Yeah.
So they're complaining about it and saying they don't want to do it as they are doing it.
It's so gross and dark down there.
Yeah, I can't believe we're doing this again. That can be interesting and fun to play off
Last
of.
time a spider almost ate my head off.
Yeah. But without actually flat refusing.
Yeah.
So some players may not know the difference between those two things. So either talking to them or showing them or... guiding them to ways that they can stay true to their character that they've made without gridlocking everything and ruining the fun of everyone at the table. Because some of my favorite characters that some of my friends have played have been super ridiculous, kind of jerky, negative people. And it's fun sometimes.
Absolutely.
And yeah, the curmudgeon, oh man, Stork was curmudgeon all the time. Curmudgeon wizards.
Well,
I know.
Because Stork
It's
is
on
pretty
time.
much it.
Yeah, it's but it's so, he would do that. He'd be I can't, complaining as we were doing the thing, which was always fun to play off of.
Great. Yeah.
And it doesn't stall things. Your character gets to act annoyed because I can't believe he's complaining again, blah, blah, blah. And so it's just a fun dynamic that doesn't stall everything out. And some people don't realize the difference. That's very much a learned thing with role-playing games and improv acting too. Say no, but you're not really, and it's it's going to sound bad. This is not a consent conversation. If people say no, they mean no. with all that other stuff. But when you're doing a role-playing game, there's a way to say no as a character where you're not really saying no to the story.
Yeah, where you're still kind of going along with things.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's an important difference that some people need to actually just have explained to them or see or have an example before they realize the difference there.
Yeah, I think that's some really great advice. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, because my advice was like, tell them to knock it the fuck off.
Well, that too. I'm not saying that that's not possible. But
I'm like, oh no, that's a really good idea. It'd be like, hey, I like that you want to do that, but let's make it work with the party better.
Yeah, and this is assuming they're not just an asshole.
Yes.
Because I'm done. Like, I don't want to give advice for people who are just assholes. I don't just don't play with those people. Like, anyway, like it's not helpful. Like, there's no way to fix an asshole. If there's it's like, just don't. If they're a good faith player who just doesn't know how to do it or needs to learn or has some bad habits, put in the energy for a while. But yeah, don't.
Yeah.
If they're just saying no for no's sake, if they just want to play their own game and kill all the monsters and not talk to other people, and why are you talking to my experience points? Like,
I just want to gift you Baldur's Gate 3.
Yes.
There you go.
Here you go. Please don't come back to my table.
Yeah, my friend who played that character in that campaign, who would always like run off and go do other things, and while we're like trying to be an adventuring party, and would eventually like show up at the fight like late, things like that, and like at some point something happened and all of our characters got kidnapped, and so we played the rescue party for our characters, which was super fun. And he played one of my favorite characters ever, who was like this lizard man guy who was like, and I'm like, Jeffrey, dude, like this character is awesome. You should continue playing this character because he stays with the group.
Yeah.
And like that's really, really fun. And he was also like, oh yeah, can we eat these guys? We just killed them. Can we eat them now? Don't eat that.
Yeah. Bruce in one of our first campaigns was really like, it was annoying, but he was so good about it. Like he was a rogue who would sneak off. He was always back. Like, he was always back before we know. So we as players know he's sneaking off and doing all this crazy shit while we're sleeping. But he was always back, so it was never a problem for our characters. And it was just like, damn it. And he would like fucking just like roll like perfectly. And it's like, okay, I guess none of us wake up. And it didn't ruin our good time. It was just one of those things where like, I swear, like he's got like so much stuff he's stolen around town. Like, and our characters didn't know. And I think that's the way to do stuff like that. If it's if you want to go off and do weird stuff on your own, like great. But either be ready to pay the consequences if the other characters find out, and there should be consequences, or just be so good at it that the characters never know. And then, like, we'll all just be like, God damn it, he got back before sunrise. Like, how the fuck does he do that? God damn it. And then
he's always sleepy.
Yeah, he's always so tired. Well, it's like the Batman thing again. Like,
yeah, exactly.
How does he never... I mean, my kid's awake half the night, and I'm like, it's sort of a zombie the next morning. I'm just like, okay, all right, let's do fractions, kids. Everything's fine. I can't imagine running like Wayne Enterprise. Although he's a CAO, he probably just sleeps all day. It doesn't matter. Yeah. This rich playboy. You don't have to do anything.
Just shows up on camera and
Yeah.
makes wild claims that none of his engineers know about.
Yeah.
And totally talking about Bruce Wayne.
It's not.
Totally
no.
talking about Bruce Wayne.
I mean, like, there's problems with Batman, but he's not that problem.
No, he's not.
I don't know if I was going to say that. Oh, yeah. And then there was one point in the campaign. And, like, this is one of those moments that, like, going back to, like, where we learned good habits. God, we screwed this up so bad. There was, like, these orbs that, like, teleported us different places with these mirrors. And each orb was, like, a key that unlocked the magical mirror to a specific place. And I forget how it happened, but, like, it turned out, like, Bruce on one of his excursions, like, had stolen some, because he and Stu, like, figured out exactly where he went, exactly what he'd taken. Like, it was all, like, written down. Like, it wasn't just a make it up later. Like, at one point, he's like, wait a minute. Like, we'd gotten stuck somewhere. He's like, wait a minute. And he pulls out this list on his character sheet. And then it's like the next, he pulls out another orb out of his bag. And we're like, we all kind of knew he'd been off doing stuff, but our characters were like, what the fuck? And it was just like one of those moments that like came full circle. And then like, I forget what it was so many years ago now. It was like 12, 13 years ago now. It's like when we first started the podcast, we were playing that 4E game. And yeah, we like broke space time or something. Like it was like a different color orb, and we decided to just go for it anyway.
Oh.
And we like, I don't know, we broke things. And Stu was like, okay, that session, because I have to figure out how this is going to go forward now. Because, I mean, we'd been playing for most of the session anyway, but it was just really funny. It was one of those moments where like, wow, okay, sometimes careful note-taking is really important. I didn't learn that as a GM, but...
Yeah, I very rarely take notes as a GM.
Same.
I've been really relying on that. My Wednesday night group is on Zoom, so I just record it. And I've been relying on those recordings when I need things. And now that I have this in-person game, I'm like, oh no. Yeah. But I keep a Post-it with me. So if you've ever seen my notes, like game notes, it's just like a pile of Post-its crumpled up.
I just try to put Samantha in all my games, and she takes amazing notes.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
good.
good.
Actually, my weekend game now, one of the players sits there and types down everything,
that's cool.
and then rewrites it into a first-person story from her character's point of view.
That's amazing.
So she always gets XP for that.
Nice, yeah.
Because I have my own XP system where it's like you get 1 XP, like basically per adventure and like encounter and like for different things that you do that are cool that I want to reward you for. And you have to get 3 times the XP of your level to get to the next level.
Oh, okay.
And so I always give her like an extra XP for that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But like this last one was like 14 pages or something. It's like, oh God.
That's wild.
Yeah. And she's working fair and like working a job and has kids and stuff.
That's
and
exhausting.
I'm just like, hey, Jane, you can chill. You don't owe us this, but we love it. So if you want to do it, we're not going to complain.
I mean, sometimes it helps. Like Samantha does it specifically because it helps her with her being, neurodiverse to stay focused and pay attention and remember things. So she started it as a way to engage with the game.
Yeah.
Because like while she's hearing and engaging in things while she's writing things down, that's how she stays focused on it. So that's something that really helps her. And then it also helps all of us. It's really cute too because she gets like a different like journal book for each campaign. So now she's got a bunch of them and they're like themed. Like the sci-fi ones are like little sci-fi journals and like it's very cool.
That's great.
It's so neat. And like every once in a while I'm at her house and there's like, let's look at the journals. Samantha, you said middle joke. Let's look at the journals. And there's like this like set of like all these little like journals that are, this is the Motive Sun Vampire one. That's what started it all. No, actually the one that started it all was Savage Rifts. We played Savage Rifts and she was a teenage angsty dragon who was sort of goth and journaled and did bad poetry. It was amazing.
It's fantastic.
And that just like started the whole thing. All right, we're way off topic.
We're into journaling.
We're into journaling. All right. Thank you for joining us for season 33, episode 16 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Ingy.
Please support our amazing indie designer of the month, Logan Timmons, and listen to his amazing podcast, The Lyrical Ludology, available wherever podcasts are sold / available. They're not sold. And also at breathingstories.itch.io. Thank you to our chat mod, James V, and to our amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join their incredible ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. Soon it will be summer here in Southern California, and we will be running the air conditioning in the studio more. So thank you, Patreons, who pay for the air conditioning so that all the air conditioning hours don't come out of my teacher's salary. Because, oh my goodness, the air conditioning is expensive. But also the Blade Runner RPG that just wrapped a couple weeks ago, they just recorded their kind of post-mortem on their campaign, and that will be released to Patreons soon.
Ooh.
Maybe today or tomorrow, depending. And today we are going to leave you with a song. We're going to leave you with a song called The Prickleholly Bush, which is actually about being in jail. And it's by the Merry Wives of Windsor. And you can find them at mwowmwow.net. Thank you all so much. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
And if ever I get out of the prickle holly bush, I'll never go in there anymore.
Come slack your horse, cries Joan. Come slack it for a while. For I think I see my father dear riding over yonder stile. Did you bring gold? Did you bring silver to set me free? Or to save my body from the cold jail walls and my neck from the high gallows tree? I've no gold, I've no silver to set you free. For I have come for to see thee hang along the high gallows tree.
Oh, the prickle holly bush, it breaks, it breaks, it breaks my heart full sore. And if ever I get out of the prickle holly bush, I'll never go in there anymore. Come slack your horse, cries Joan. Come slack it for a while. For I think I see my sister dear riding over yonder stile. Did you bring gold? Did you bring silver to set me free? Or to save my body from the cold jail walls and my neck from the high gallows tree? I've no gold, I've no silver to set you free. For I have come for to see thee hang along the high gallows tree. Oh, the prickle holly bush, it breaks, it breaks, it breaks my heart full sore. And if ever I get out of the prickle holly bush, I'll never go in there anymore. Come slack your horse, cries Joan. Come slack it for a while. For I think I see my true love dear riding over yonder stile. Did you bring gold? Did you bring silver to set me free? Or to save my body from the cold jail walls and my neck from the high gallows tree? I brought gold, I brought silver to set you free. For I've not come for to see thee hang along the high gallows tree. Oh, the prickle holly bush, it breaks, it breaks, it breaks my heart full sore. And now that I'm out of the prickle holly bush, I'll never go in there anymore. Oh, the prickle holly bush, it breaks, it breaks, it breaks my